What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to another video. Today's video, I wanted to cover a really important topic because everyone sees where I was just a couple years ago, full knee surgery, full LCL reconstruction, ACL tear, meniscus tear, and before that, a full hamstring tendon tear. And you look at me now, just set a new power clean PR today of 295, had a sprint session earlier this week, able to do weighted backflips. I'm at my peak athleticism, regardless of the injuries that I had recently. And everyone is always in my DMs asking me, I'm dealing with this injury, like how do I get back? What are the biggest things for me being able to get back? How did you do it? What should I do in this situation? So guys, in this video, I want to outline the 4 pillars that were really able to take me from injured, below ground zero, down bad physically and mentally to where I'm at now. And if you can master these 4 things, you can overcome any injury and you can get back to 100%. Guys, the first step of this whole thing is radical accountability and creating awareness around your problem. Until you do these 2 things, you won't be able to recover to 100%. Now, what do I mean by this? Radical accountability in the sense that knowing that the reason you're still dealing with pain, knowing the reason that you haven't recovered to 100% is completely your fault, and it can be no one else's fault. It's so easy to externalize these things because injuries are unfortunate. They really take a toll on you physically and mentally. Like, I've been there. It's easy to be like, I got unlucky with this cut. I got hit weird. My PT, X, Y, Z, whatever it is. But until you take radical accountability for where you fell short, you won't be able to recover. Think of it this way. Think of your injury like you stumbled over a tripwire. You fell into a booby trap, right? If you can't look back and identify, shit, I fell right there, so moving forward, I'm going to avoid that. How can you ever get back to 100%? You could have the best rehab plan in place that gets you back, but as you keep making the same mistakes over and over, it won't matter. Like, for example, after my hamstring tear and after my knee surgery, I had to acknowledge, shit, dude, the reason I went from a hamstring tear, the reason I tore my hamstring to begin with, I was overtraining. I was pushing, not enough rest. Then the reason I tore my knee afterward is because I didn't rebuild my foundations properly. I didn't get unlucky. It wasn't a stroke of bad luck. Because the truth is, unless you get hit by a bus, it's completely your fault. And it wasn't until I took accountability for this and realized, damn, if I continue to overtrain, if I continue to neglect the foundations of bulletproofing everything from my ankles up to my hips, I'm going to continuously deal with these injuries. It wasn't until I internalized those lessons and became super aware of the problems that were causing my pain and injury that I was able to do anything about it, right? Because then I was able to get back to 100% after these things by not overtraining and by rebuilding my foundations thoroughly and not skipping levels within my training. I took those mistakes, I took those losses and turned them into lessons moving forward. I looked back at where I stumbled and I applied it moving forward to make sure I avoid it in the future. Until you can do this, until you realize, you look in the mirror and you ask yourself with brutal honesty, why am I in pain right now? No, like really, did I rehab properly? Did I do enough preventative work? Did I try and skip levels with my training? Was I getting overzealous? Was I trying to do athletic work even though I was still dealing with pain, imbalances, and discomfort, and I didn't actually have 100% confidence at what I was doing? Guys, all of these things you need to ask yourself, because here's the truth. You can continue to scroll through Instagram and look at all these trending exercises, but until you get to the root of your problem and why you're dealing with it, it won't matter. Number 2, I had to understand that most people that get hurt do not get back to 100%. That might sound heavy for a lot of you guys, but look around. Think of all the people you know that got hurt and were never the same since. You hear it all the time. Yeah, I tore my ACL back in the day. I tore my Achilles back in the day. I did X, Y, and Z, and now it just hasn't been the same. Guys, most people that get hurt don't get back to 100%. That's just the truth. So I had to understand, if most people don't get back, I have to do something differently. I can't do what most people do unless I want to get what most people get, which is fucking a life of pain and basically being a prisoner in your own body, not being able to do what I love to do. I understood that if most people don't have 100% recovery, most people just do the bare minimum for rehab, physical therapy once, twice, 3 times a week for a couple months, I had to think outside of the box. I had to do more. Because what's the differentiator? Guys, like, even at the highest levels, you see that certain injuries are like death sentences for athletes, for like the majority of professional athletes. And it's really rare that you find outliers within the regular population like myself or like you guys watching this. And it's also rare you find outliers at the professional level. You look at the freakiest athletes like Derrick Rose or Conor McGregor, like these guys who just are plagued by injuries, they never get back to 100%. You have to ask yourself, well, what are these guys failing to do? Like Derrick Rose might have had the best rehab team, but he kept making the same mistake over and over again. So guys, you have to understand, you have to move differently than the general population. Now, how did I move differently? Well, instead of just doing the bare minimum, 1, 2, 3 sessions of physical therapy a week for a couple months and then just get cleared back to my sport just to get fucked up again, instead I was like, I'm going to withdraw from PT since I had a bad experience from my hamstring tear. I'm going to knock this thing out myself. I got help from a mentor who had a bunch of ACL tears of his own and was able to get back to 100%. I found a mentor. I worked with him, and we tackled this entire recovery independent of PT. I wasn't doing things once, twice, or even 3 times a week. I was doing shit, banded isometrics specifically, 4, 5, 6 times a week. I was doing things outside of the norm. Ask yourself, when's the last time you isolated your hip flexors, your abductors, your adductors, your foot and ankle complex? Odds are you haven't. Guys, the truth is, I had to think differently. I had to adopt an entirely new mindset. I had to try new exercises. I had to take a new approach. I had to think outside of the box to get what most people don't get, which is a successful recovery. Because here's the truth. If you look at the crowd is all walking in one direction. And all the people that walk in that direction are all getting the same result. They're not getting back to 100%. Why would you walk in that direction? Instead, you have to seek another route. You have to seek different help. You have to seek different paths of navigating this. Otherwise, you'll get what everyone else gets. Most people don't recover to 100%, so you have to do what most people don't do. You have to think differently. That's what was a big differentiator for my recovery. Third, I had to submit to the progression. I can't emphasize this enough. One of the greatest mistakes I made that led to my hamstring tear and to my knee injury was not submitting to the progression. The moment that I would make a little bit of progress, I would get this hit of dopamine. Oh, sweet, I'm back to 100%. Let me jump back into, heavy back squats. Let me jump back into running, plyometrics, X, Y, and Z, only to aggravate the area more, not realizing that just because you get excited, just because you feel momentum, doesn't actually make you ready for these tasks that you're going to jump into. Because if you haven't thoroughly built that foundation, if you haven't eliminated pain in all ranges of motion, if you haven't reestablished 110% confidence in all activities, you haven't eliminated all imbalances, the moment you try to skip levels, you're going to cause overcompensation. Other areas are going to be picking up slack for the area that you neglected. You're going to likely get an injury somewhere else like I did, or cause your injured area to flare up. It's going to lead to a whole host of problems, all because you didn't submit to the progression. Now, how did this actually serve my recovery? I just submitted to the banded isometrics for months. Then I submitted to slow eccentrics for months. I submitted to mobility. I didn't try to skip levels. I didn't try to skip steps. I made sure I left no stone unturned. I didn't skimp out on any body part. I bulletproofed myself from the ankle all the way up to the hips. By the time 8 months came around, 9 months came around, I looked up and I was able to do everything that I love. Heck, even before that, I was able to dunk at 5 months post-operation. I wouldn't recommend that for a lot of you guys, but I was actually building my foundations properly. And that was just a one-off thing. I didn't turn that into, sweet, I'm going to be dunking every week. I'm going to be playing pick-up basketball. That was just like a little side achievement. After that, head right back, nose to the grindstone, submit to the progression. Guys, if you can submit to the progression and understand that your end goal of training athletic, of getting back to your sport, that end goal is not going to be your means of getting there. You have to progress to that point. You can't be like, I want to train athletically again, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump right back into athletic training. No, you have to make sure you're bulletproof from the ground up. You have to make sure you're putting in the right inputs to get that output. Guys, for example, if you have a goal of benching 315, you don't go into the gym every single day and get right under 315 pounds. You master the bar, you master a plate, you master 2 plates, then 2 plates and a quarter, and then 315. You submit to the progression and you earn your way there. Last, but certainly not least, I aligned my lifestyle. Guys, I was an avid pothead. I would drink every weekend and I'd always been in good shape. I was a college athlete. I had a 3.9 GPA from the outside looking in. Everything was perfect. But I was drinking on the weekends. I was smoking a ton of weed. I was eating bullshit whenever I wanted to. I was falling into lust. I was staying up late. I was scrolling right off the wake up. And I realized that I can't continue to neglect my body if I'm trying to rebuild my body. I can't continue to neglect my mind if my body is a reflection of my mind. And I can't continue to neglect my soul if everything stems from this. Here's the thing, guys. If you're constantly indulging in lustful activities, you're constantly going to be draining all of your energy. If you're constantly eating like shit, you're going to cause inflammation in your body. You're not giving your body the building blocks that it needs to get back to 100%. If you're not getting good sleep, then you're missing out on your body's literal recovery tank where it's going to do the most healing possible. And if you're slacking off in all these other areas, if you're drinking on the weekends, you're just tanking your hormones, you're tanking your recovery, your muscle protein synthesis on the weekends, you're ingesting a bunch of extra calories. Not to mention, it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. You can't be undisciplined in one area of your life and not expect it to bleed over in other areas. After my hamstring tear and my initial knee injury, during this time period, the same way that I would smoke weed whenever things got hard, just whenever I wanted to, I would drink on the weekends, was the same way that I would get undisciplined with my recovery. I just skipped levels when things got hard just to get a little hit of dopamine, just to tell myself, oh yeah, I'm doing good, I can do these things. The same way I would stray off my diet plan was the same way I would stray off the rehab plan and not submit to the progression. The same way I would stay up late and then wake up and doom scroll and just totally fuck up my day was the same way that I would not be thorough within my rehab. You have to identify these parallels. And so after my knee surgery, I dialed in. I eliminated lustful indulgences. I dialed in my diet. I was drinking bone broth. I was getting quality proteins. I dialed in my sleep. I dialed in my recovery. I became obsessed with the lifestyle aspect of nourishing my mind. I began journaling, getting more in touch with God, my religion, reading books. Because here's the thing, guys. Your body is a reflection, better yet, a projection of your mind. You look at a fit person that has a six-pack, that's in good shape. The obvious part is that they're fit. What you don't see is the self-respect, the discipline, the healthy relationship with food, the consistency, especially when it comes to the gym, the positive self-talk of dieting isn't even hard, it's just my way of life. Lifting isn't a chore, it's a privilege. You look at a fat person, it's the inverse. Yeah, the obvious part is that they're fat, but what's on the other side of that? Lack of discipline, lack of self-respect, an unhealthy relationship with food. Lack of consistency, especially with exercise, negative self-talk. Dieting is so hard, I'd rather just eat cheeseburger, fries, milkshake. Going to the gym is such a chore, it's such a drag. And you wonder why the outside manifests into the way it is. You have all these negative internal things going on and then it projects into their external. On the flip side, you look at a fit person, the positivity internally flows outward. How do we cultivate this positivity? How do we cultivate that healthy internal environment? By locking in the lifestyle. Guys, if you're able to do these things, you will progress. I promise you that. That is why when everyone comes into my program, into my coaching, the first thing we do is dial in the mindset. We dial in the internal dialogue. And then we prep them for just submitting to the progression, for submitting to the foundation, submitting to the banded isometrics, to the mobility, to the slow eccentrics, knowing that if we just submit and lose ourselves in this process, we will progress. If we rebuild the foundations properly, we will get to those goals of getting back to sport, of being able to sprint again, run, jump. And everyone in my coaching that is submitted to the process, that is dialed in the mental side of things, they always get amazing results. It's not rocket science, it's just the work that most people avoid. Hence why most people don't get back to 100%. Hence why most people are fat, out of shape, depressed, and not living the life they want to live. Do what most people do and get what most people get. However, if you're willing and if you are truly about rebuilding yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and getting back to 100%, you have to be willing to do what most people don't do. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something of value. If you want help with this process, you can book a one-on-one call with me below to see if you're a good fit for the coaching. Check out my Instagram. I drop a ton of value every single day on there. I'll see you guys in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace, love, and prosperity. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.